The events described in this story are said to have actually happened in real life and have been passed down to the present day through the accounts of eyewitnesses. This happened a few months ago, at the beginning of spring. I was in a strange transitional phase in my life. I had just graduated from college, didn't have any real responsibilities yet, and had way too much free time. I had finished school a semester early, which had sounded great when I was drowning in assignments. But once all that free time was actually mine, I didn't know what to do with it. My full-time job wouldn't start until June, and most of my friends were still busy with classes or finals. So until then, I was basically suspended in limbo, stuck between two phases of my life. It was an unsettling feeling, and it made me feel worthless. I'm someone who likes to be productive. Sitting around doing nothing for days and just watching time slip by was eating away at me. That's probably why, when my mom suggested I look after my Uncle Mark's summer house, I said yes immediately. It was a simple task. Go to Monterey, California, check for any leaks or damage in the house, take care of small maintenance tasks so that Mark wouldn't have to deal with them later. For context, I'm from Portland, Oregon, and Mark's house is in Monterey. So it's not too far of a drive, about 6 hours. The house is really big. Every summer, our entire extended family gathers there. 25 people under one roof, playing games and drinking heavily. Honestly, those are probably the two defining traits of my family. The house isn't directly on the ocean, but it's not far from the beach either. It's located in a quiet neighborhood tucked among tall pine trees and winding roads. I don't remember what day it was, probably a Thursday. I left in the afternoon, which in hindsight wasn't the smartest timing. The drive was uneventful. When I got to the house, everything looked normal. I went inside and worked through Mark's checklist, checked the faucets, the circuit breakers, walked through the house. Everything seemed fine. To be honest, being alone in the house felt weird. I'd never seen it without scattered board games and noisy relatives. The silence was the creepiest part. It felt abandoned. You know how some places are just meant to be filled with people, like a restaurant or a house, and when they're empty, it's unsettling. That was exactly how it felt. Anyway, it was getting dark, and I hate driving at night. So I texted my mom to say I'd stay the night and head back in the morning. She said that was a good idea and reminded me to thank Mark. I did. I made myself a little dinner, messed around on my phone, and then got ready for bed. During family gatherings, I usually get stuck in one of the small rooms on the third floor. The big, nice rooms always go to someone else. I don't mind. That's just how it goes. But that night, the house was all mine, so I decided to take advantage of it. I chose the master bedroom on the second floor. Private bathroom, massive walk-in closet, and an insanely comfortable bed. It wasn't a hard choice. Around midnight, I climbed into bed and quickly fell asleep. I don't remember exactly when I woke up. I just remember being startled awake by something. I was still groggy, but I was sure I'd heard a noise from the closet, like something had fallen inside, but it hadn't made much sound. I turned my head to look at it. Even that small motion made my heart pound. My mind was alert, but my body didn't want to move. It wasn't sleep paralysis, but it felt close. I could move if I really wanted to, but I didn't. I didn't want to know if something was in that closet. I squeezed my eyes shut and tried to fall back asleep. I was almost there when I heard it again. A dull thud from inside the closet, like something hitting the floor. I cracked my eyes open slightly and tried to convince myself I had imagined it, but I knew I hadn't. It was real. It felt like an invisible force had locked up my entire body. This time, I literally couldn't move. Until then, I hadn't really understood what people meant by being paralyzed with fear. I listened in terror as the closet door creaked open slowly. Through barely open eyes, I saw a dark figure slide into the room. It stood still beside the bed, watching me. Maybe 20 seconds passed, but every second felt like an hour. Then, silently, it turned around and walked out of the room. I stayed completely still, barely even breathing. Footsteps echoed through the house, but instead of going downstairs, they went up, to the third floor. My stomach turned. There was only one staircase to the third floor, and no exit up there. My mind was screaming at me to do something, but I couldn't move from fear. Was the person armed? Could I take down a grown man? I had no idea. All I could do was wait. After what felt like several agonizing minutes, I managed to shake it off and move again. I quietly grabbed my phone and dialed 911. As soon as the operator answered, I whispered that someone was inside the house. I got out of bed and, as quietly as I could, locked the bedroom door. Then I waited. Minutes passed like hours, until finally, red and blue lights lit up the windows. I was genuinely surprised at how quickly the police arrived. I ran down the stairs, opened the door, and nearly collapsed from relief when I saw them. Without wasting a second, they rushed inside and started checking the house. I waited outside. It didn't take long. According to them, the house was empty. I was in shock. I had heard the footsteps going upstairs and there was no other exit from up there. That meant he was still inside. There was no other explanation. The officers suggested that maybe the man had slipped past me without me noticing, that I had been too scared to realize it, but I knew that wasn't true. The man had vanished. I couldn't accept the idea of the police leaving, so I called my Uncle Mark. He was furious. He told them they needed to search the house again, and insisted that my life could be in danger. This time, the police did a more thorough search. Mark told me to follow and watch everything they did, so I tagged along. The officers systematically checked every room, every closet, under the beds, even the walls. They pulled back shower curtains, inspected every door and window lock. That's when they noticed it. One of the windows on the third floor wasn't locked, the room I was supposed to sleep in that night. While one officer stayed at the door, another went out onto the back porch. I followed him because the thought of staying inside made me nauseous. He shined his flashlight around but didn't see anything at first. Then he looked up, toward the sloped part of the roof. And that's when the most terrifying thing happened. The light landed on something. The man. The same man I'd seen in the house was sitting on the roof. Dirty, bald, in ragged clothes. He looked like he hadn't bathed in years. I don't remember much after that. The officer called it in over the radio. More units arrived, and they managed to get him down and handcuff him. They said he was probably a homeless man who had been secretly living in the house, maybe for days, maybe weeks. But when they asked how he got in, how long he'd been there, why he was hiding in the closet, he didn't say a word. His face was blank, expressionless. It was like he didn't care about anything. Before long, they put him in the back of a police car, and just like that, it was over. I still can't wrap my head around it. I never understood why he hid in the closet. Maybe he heard me come in and panicked, hiding in the first place he could find. Neither I nor Mark knows how he even got into the house. You can't climb onto the roof from the ground. It's impossible. That's why, to this day, there's still no logical explanation. My extended family keeps pressuring Mark to upgrade the security system, but he refuses every time. I don't know why, but I can't shake this thought. What if I had slept in my usual room that night? Things could have ended very differently. I couldn't pull myself together for a long time after that night. Everything felt so strange, so quiet, so unsettling. Police reports, statements, security measures, it all occupied my mind for days. But no matter what I did, I couldn't forget that man's face. His eyes were completely empty, like someone who hadn't felt a single emotion in years. A few days later, Mark called and told me he had made new plans for the house. He had decided to install an advanced alarm system and motion sensors. Everyone seemed relieved, but I still had an uneasy feeling inside me. It felt like the whole thing wasn't truly over, like that man had somehow seeped into the walls of the house. His presence there felt disturbingly natural, like he had belonged to that roof for years. About a week after the incident, one of the officers reached out to me. They had gathered some information about the man found in the house. His name was Curtis Malone. According to records, he had been caught trespassing in some vacant homes in the area a few years back, but no one ever reported him harming anyone. He was generally quiet. He avoided people. But it turned out that a few years ago, he had done the same thing, lived for days in the attic of his sister's house without her even realizing he was there. What made it even more disturbing was the fact that he hadn't been in contact with his sister at all. He never offered any explanation. He had just secretly stayed in her home, just like he did in the one I was staying in. The police said Curtis might have psychological issues, but as long as he didn't act aggressively, there wasn't much they could do. They said they'd transfer him to a shelter. Honestly, that didn't comfort me at all. I never had to go back to that house again. But in my mind, I kept reliving those moments over and over, especially the moment the closet door opened. It came back to me as a recurring nightmare. Even when I closed my eyes, I could still see him, standing by the bed, silently staring at me. The human mind works in strange ways. Sometimes, something happens in your life for no reason at all, and it changes you forever. That's what this was. I had set out to do a simple favor, to help Mark, to make use of my free time. But what I encountered felt like it cut through my mind. That house no longer brought me peace, only a constant sense of threat. Monterey never felt the same again. That neighborhood, those pine trees, that quiet, it all started to feel like a curtain hiding someone behind it. Maybe what I feared most wasn't that someone like Curtis would sneak into my life again. Maybe what truly scared me was the thought that a part of that night had somehow stayed inside me. Sometimes when I wake up, I still hear the creaking of the closet door, and sometimes it feels like he's still there,